Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Awaken to Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. If you're new to me, shefaliburns, new to my show, new to my channel on YouTube, if you're watching on the replay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It is my deepest wish, desire, and intention to bring to you these amazing, wonderful speakers who are sharing their wisdom, their teachings, their experiences, their processes, all of that kind of stuff, so that we can all awaken to happiness now, so that we can all thrive and be in joy. And so today, my dear friends who I haven't talked in a long time are back with us. So Mary and garyobrien are here today with us, and we're going to be talking about accessing ancient frequencies and light to activate your multidimensional self. And I'm really excited about this conversation, as I'm sure you will be as well. So some of what we're going to discuss today is we're going to talk about that quiet inner knowing, the multidimensional self, accessing our other selves, the great symbol as a portal. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And for those of you who may not know Mary and Gary, they are light shamans and channels for DZAR, a playful, compassionate energy of light and transformation. And since 2008, Gary has opened as a trance channel for DZAR's teachings, offering deep yet playful guidance that bypasses the mind and speaks straight to your essence via frequency, awakening a cellular remembering of who you came here to be. And from their farm in Australia, Mary and Gary nurture a global community offering international retreats and online gatherings that ripple outward, spreading love, connection, transformation into the world. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Mary and Gary back to the show. So glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah,
lovely to see you again.
Great to see you, mate.
So, it's been a while, right? So I think last time was 2015. And part of that was because I was in Europe for 7 years, right? So the timing did not work. Right. So I'm so glad that you're back with us. So can you just tell us a little bit about DZAR, the channeling that you do, and just anything that you can share with us about your journey to even becoming that trans channel and working with DZAR for humanity, for yourselves, etc.
Do you want to start?
Okay, go.
Yeah.
So DZAR is they're pure source energy. They've never been in human physical form, and we refer to them as a they. And the spelling is DZ or DZAR, ZAR. And that was the name they gave us in the very first conversation we had with them when we hadn't had much, if any, experience with channeling before. And we'd learned a Reiki process that was particularly, the focus of it was to tap into universal wisdom. And when we learned it, I was getting reams of information. I would just sit and the way I connect in is either I hear it and speak it, or I write it. And so I was getting lots and lots of information, and Gary was not getting much at all. And so he wasn't happy. And they normally say happy wife, happy life. Well, happy husband, happy life is also a good motto to live by.
Yes.
So the process, what I felt was happening with Gaz, was that when he would go through using the Reiki symbols, and then he'd open his eyes to start to write, and it was always hang up the call, his thinking would kick back in. So I said, why don't we try it differently? Go through the process, and to kind of get you started, you just keep your eyes closed, and whatever's there, say it, and I'll write it down for you. And my thought was that would be that would just be the training wheels. Then he'd be off and running, and he'd do it all on his own. Well, little did we know that was the first time that DZAR spoke to us. And so it looks pretty much the same now as it did back in 2008. His eyes were closed, his head dropped, and I could immediately feel the energy shift. And many of you will feel that energy shift too as DZAR joins us. And so I just began the conversation, who are you? What are you here to share? And I asked them their name, because I thought, well, I said, what do I call you? And they said, our name is DZAR. And in my mind, I was thinking like Russian Tsar. So I saw in my head TSAR. And I said, so how do you spell that? And they said DZAR. So after that first conversation, which lasted about an hour, and it was really moving, and they talked about that they wanted us to share this message of us all remembering who we are and connecting back to the sameness rather than living in this state of separation. I immediately Googled to see if that information was coming through from anywhere else, and there was nothing. And then I got curious about the meaning of the name and Googled again and found that it's ancient Hebrew. and it actually means helper or helper, to make it clear for the US. And so that made perfect sense, really, because that's DZAR's whole purpose, really, is to help us remember and come back into that both conscious awareness, but also the energetic alignment of all that we're meant to be. So that's been the journey since 2008 from the kind of the how it looks from the outside.
And I think too, Shefali, what's really interesting is that, and we had this confirmed by an amazing chap when we were invited to speak in Iceland, what we've always known but never, well, we've always known but not had confirmed in a way, was that Mary always needs to be right next to me, or like, you know, in the room with me, so that I can channel. And which was, I think, is a little bit unusual, because when we're in Iceland, this chap has this amazing computer and photography, and he can see energy come in and through the body. And he can see it, you know, when people are doing healings with another person and so on. And what happens, he could see the energy come through Mary first and then across into me, and then DZAR would come forward. And like he was saying, wow, I had not seen that before. And we know that if Mary leaves the room, DZAR just powers down like they've run out of batteries.
They go into standby mode.
They go into standby until Mary comes back in, and then they start talking. So, yeah, I'll be
So
sticking
you're
with this
really a
girl for a
team.
while.
So you're really a
Yeah.
team then, for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when, I suppose it's worth if you describe, because there's so many different forms of channeling, and I believe that we all channel and we all have that capacity, whether we're doing it or not, and whatever process we use. So for some, you know, automatic writing is a fabulous way to tap into that other information. Sometimes it's just in meditation that we get downloads and insights and information. But trance channeling with Gaz, it's the way you often described it. So he gets sent down a very long corridor and his consciousness is just steps to one side so that DZAR can speak through them.
Yeah.
Through him. So do you want to just kind of describe what that's like, maybe?
Yeah, I think, you know, well, I don't think, I actually know. I think I got the best job in the world, because I don't have to prepare. I don't have to do anything. I can go to sleep for an hour and a half or 2 hours and then wake up and it's all done. You know, it's probably one of the best jobs ever. And Mary's got all the hard work. And so, yeah, I think one of the hardest things was to learn to get out of the way, to not, in the beginning, I thought I had to prepare, I had to breathe a certain way, or I had to wear this and wear that and blah, blah, blah. That was just the physical, you know, making it hard. And then when I realized, no, just leave, then I could just go, you know, and just, it does feel like I'm down a long hallway and they lock the door and then they let me out at the end. So,
lovingly lock him down.
Yeah. Sometimes I pick the lock and I scoot out, but then they, you know, then there's that passageway again, and so I leave.
Wow, it's such a different experience. So do you have any awareness of what transmissions or a conversation is happening while you're in that corridor away basically in your own little room?
Not really. Sometimes, so all I get is feeling. And so if I'm chatting away with people, say at the end of a webinar or whatever, and they start talking, I sort of feel them, and then some more information comes forward. But yeah, it's funny, even after all this time, I'll remember a little bit sometimes, but not very much. It's a bit trickier. There's about, what, 15 or more years of my life I'm thinking, what happened?
Thank goodness everything is recorded, and Mary is there to also take notes and ask questions as well, right?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. She's great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know that a lot of people are curious about channelers and channeling, and I know so many people would love to also be able to do that, be open to do that as well. So this is a different form. So not every channel is a couple or a duo or a team, there's a few, I mean, but not like you guys, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure, right? So it's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting to see how things can be different in the universe. Like, it doesn't always have to be the exact same thing for each person. It can be totally different, and it's okay, right? Because
Yes.
I think it's about the intention, right? And what you're willing to receive and what you're willing to share, being open to, again, being the helpers, right? Because so you must have been helpers in previous lifetimes or previous, dimensions and realities as well, so that you are able to be that bridge this time, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And I think you're so right that it's often our expectations of how our connection to spirit or energy will look or feel that is the very thing that blocks us, because we do look at other people and we go, wow, and I do. I think, God, I wish I could do that. Wow, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to, whatever I see these people doing, having these amazing abilities. And for a while, that was a real block for me, because I thought, well, if I can't do it the way they're doing it, if I don't do it the way Gaz channels, oh, well, then it's not as good. And so there was a real journey of me recognizing the value in the difference for how we all do it. And there's real purpose in that too, because we all resonate differently with different people and different approaches. And so allowing our unique flavor to come through when we connect to source and spirit, and allow that to be, whether we're doing it in an overt way where we share what we connect and what we learn and the information that comes through, or we just allow that to be in our energy field, and that's the ripple that we're putting out into the world. The difference is actually the sameness. That's what creates the sameness. And I think just allowing ourselves to be curious, to explore, well, what is it like for me at the start? And it'll keep shifting and changing the more that we play without expectation, without judgment of what we think it should be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's about being in allowance and being in flow, and just being willing to receive what is happening, what is taking place, and being okay with it without that expectation or that control. I call it trying to control everything, right? So just being an allowance of it and allowing it to flow, because your intention is to be of service. Right.
Yeah.
And I think the intention piece is really huge as well for everyone. And so I know we're talking about channeling here for a little bit, but it's the same with anything and everything. It's your intention. Is it your intention to serve, or is your intention more ego-based, right? So self, or what? And sometimes we need to get clear on that as well. And with that clarity, then the universe, the powers that be, all those
Whatever
different
name we put to it.
things out there, they tap into that, and they're like, okay, she is, willing to serve, and she's open, and so on and so forth, right? And so then that's how it happens. But I do think it is also based on what we have, what contracts we've made in this lifetime, plus previous lifetimes, all of our different experiences that have made, that have shaped us to be who we are now, and whatever else happens after that, right? So
yeah, we bring all of that past wisdom and experience into this life. And one of the things we teach about is what we call breadcrumbs of knowing. And the breadcrumbs of knowing are the little clues we leave for ourselves in this life from previous lives. We set things up so that we remember who we are, because we come in and we're tiny and we remember and we have this amazing connection, and then we get taught out of that and we forget, and then we know that that's what's going to happen. And so all that we are has left these little reminders along the way. And so as we see those and pick them up and accept them, then we go, oh yeah, that's right, that's who I am. We took a group to Europe last year on retreat, and it was, we talked about it as it was a retreat of remembering. It was about us remembering who we are as we visited all these ancient sites. And as we remember that, we just accept it. You know, there's no ego, as you're saying. It's not about, wow, how amazing. And we weren't all Cleopatra, funnily enough.
Exactly.
Perfectly,
Yeah.
we don't need to be. You know, we're going to touch a lot more lives just by being who we are in our day-to-day than being anyone that we might deem as special.
Mm.
And, you know, and that, go ahead, Gary.
Oh, no. So I was just to agree with what Mary was sharing then. I think one of the things that I've learned most over all this time is just the serendipity, or the breadcrumb analogy. It's that, you know, when it all began, we were learning this modality called Psych K, psychological kinesiology, which was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. And when I look back at all these breadcrumbs, we had to sort of go to Colorado, this little place in Crestone, way out of Denver. And there was one lady there who was a massage therapist that I went to, and that's where the trigger started. Where she said they've taken me to the next level of consciousness. And then it was a year later that Mary went to a business seminar, that we met these people who then taught us this Reiki thing that then triggered the next level of consciousness. So, and then all these other little bits, you know, over the years and years and years we've been doing it. And they're all been these breadcrumbs that if we thought life had to fit in this way, we would have missed, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But you know, you just don't know where each little piece is going to lead you. Generally, if you have that faith and trust in yourself and so on, it leads you to much bigger and better things. Because I think the universe and creation is trying to guide you along this sometimes pretty difficult path.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. And part of that has to be, it's about you being willing to be in the moment, being in the flow, and being willing to receive and see and perceive those breadcrumbs even, right? So those serendipitous moments without an agenda. It's not like, okay, I'm going to take this Reiki course and then this is going to happen. No, just take the Reiki course and then see what happens, right?
Cool.
Yeah, I love that, because you don't know, like nobody knows for sure what's going to happen next when you take one step, but if you don't take any steps at all, nothing is going to happen. And I'm a strong proponent of just take a step, see what happens. Who knows, right? And then go with sorry?
Follow if you can feel the energy of something, even though it may not make sense.
Absolutely. I totally agree. A lot of times it doesn't make any logical sense at all, but if you're following it from your heart and it feels right and it feels good, so you see where it leads, right? And yeah, that's where the magic happens. So, you know,
you need to go.
I need to go.
Zara's lurking.
I'm sorry.
We always say they're
I keep feeling like I'm gonna get to sleep.
Zara can come in. So when Gaz channels, he wears this scarf, and it's not a magic scarf.
It could be Harry Potter, you know.
It could be a Harry Potter. But it's really just so that we started using it years ago, just so that we could tell in photos and videos, or more photos, when it was Gary and a photo when it was Zara. And it was funny because people think, oh, the scarf's important. And I think as humans, we tend to give a lot of power often to objects, you know, whether it's a crystal that you need to have with you when you meditate, or a magic scarf like this. And a few years ago, we were traveling to do some sessions and workshops out of town, and we were partway driving. It was about a 6-hour drive, and we'd left about 4 hours, and we suddenly said, I forgot the scarf. And there was that momentary, and then we were, it's not about the scarf.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so needless to say, everything went off without a hitch. But I think it's a great awareness that often we think we need these rituals and these external things to allow us to connect. And they can help, but we want to be clear where the power is, and the power is in us to make that connection, not in the external object.
Absolutely. I totally agree. At the beginning, sometimes it can be helpful to have those tools, but then at some point you have to realize you don't need those tools. It's all within, and you have all the tools and gifts within you to access whatever it is that you want, for sure. I totally agree. That's why I hardly have any more crystals, which I used to, I had so many. It's like, but they were great for that time. So I know Zara is going to be coming in any minute now. So, you know, we are talking about, for me, this is about remembering who you are. That is one of my main themes, goals, mantras, all that kind of stuff. It's about remembering who you are. That's why we're here. That's the essence of our life, is to know who we are, to remember who we are, right? And that cannot be something intellectualized. It's not. It doesn't happen on the mental level, but it's a deep knowing, right? And so when DZAR is here and everything, then we'll we'll go into the meat of the conversation. But it is about being still and being in that quiet knowing. That is where you're going to receive the answers. But it's not even about answers. It's just, for me, it's about just being in the frequency, being in those energies, being in the energy of yourself, being in the energy of creation and the universe, right?
And living as that. So welcome, ZAR. So
Mm.
just for people who are new to us and to ZAR, I just want to share that there's two levels where the communication happens with ZAR very clearly. One is there'll be conscious things that they'll talk about. You know, they'll talk about the great symbol. We'll be talking about our multidimensional selves, how to tap into that. There'll be a lot of really great information, and that information can shift us because it expands who we think we are and it expands what we think is. At the same time, there's also what we call the frequency conversation. And the frequency conversation is the energetic transmission that accompanies everything that ZAR says. And as a frequency of compassion, that is the frequency they share. And for me, it always feels like I plug back into the mainframe of remembering of who I am, because it's sameness. So allow yourself, as you're listening, to, yes, hear what's being said, but allow yourself to feel and ride the energy of the conversation as well, because that's where the foundational shifts happen. And then the thinking can allow you to take action based on energetically what's shifted.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm.
So welcome, ZAR.
Welcome, 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 young ones. So we're going to answer your question. We're going to answer your question of who you are, and then you can all croak, then you can all leave, you can all come back, you see.
Mystery solved.
Mystery solved, then you don't have to worry anymore. Because we understand it's such a big confusion for so many. We know why. But the answer to that question is your creation's reflection in the physical. That's it, really. But then after that comes, okay, now what? How do you live as that reflection? How do you live as that knowing, as opposed to that separated thinking self that you've been taught to be all these years in physical form? It's quite a difficult journey from that perspective. And that is truly why so many of you ask, why, who am I? Because I'm not living the who am I part of this moment. The two don't match up. No, not at all. No. One struggle and the other one should be bliss. I should just be floating on clouds talking to angels. Yes, but now I'm taking out garbage. Oh, what happened there? That went wrong. Can you understand this, young one? Oh.
So I think in that, ZAR, that idea that we are creation's reflection in the physical, it makes sense then for me why the understanding of us as being multidimensional, which I'm sure everyone knows that we are in whatever form that takes, makes so much more sense than me thinking I have to cram all that is creation into this little physical, as you call the little meat packet, that there's more of me being creation.
Yes.
And we had a fabulous one-on-one call the other day, Shefali, where ZAR talked about this, and they gave a new analogy to understand it, and it just made perfect sense. So I think that would be a great place to start for people to have a framework to think about what does it mean for us to be multidimensional, because it's one of those things, yes, it's a concept and we know it, but now what once we know that? So maybe if we kick off with that.
Perfect awareness, young Mary. So here's a difficulty that some of you are living through, well, with and through. is that within you, there is an incredibly deep knowing. There is a deep knowing within you of something that is much more, much bigger than what you are currently experiencing in physical form. And in that little niggle is also a purpose. There's a purpose that exists within you that knows you are supposed to be living in this physical form, maybe not in the way that you have been living it, but that it was almost a decision that you feel you've made. And for some of you to shrink into physical form rather than the expanded form that you are. And so there's a lot of confusing information inside of you. And that creates, in some ways, a difficulty for you moving forward, because the duality, you see, it exists, but it's not matching up to what you know should be. And your thinking gets in the way because of all the way you've been taught. And so, well, let us just ask you, does that sort of ring a bell for beings, humans in this moment?
Pop into
Absolutely.
the chat. Yeah. Can you relate to that? It's almost, there's that disconnect between who we know we are and the feeling of us and what life, it's not a great reflection often.
Yeah, there's definitely a gap.
A gap.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
definitely a gap between
Yeah.
who we know we are and how we're expressing ourselves.
Yes. Yes. So, so then let's explain this multidimensional energy that you are, as young Mary shared. And so this is you. You're this little being here. And from this little being here, it looks as though you're all alone. There's this knowing that exists in your head that there's something more, but really I'm in physical form and I can't really understand or feel anything else. Something you know is animating you, but they're not really helping much. They're not really, they're keeping you going, but it's a struggle. Now, here's the beautiful awareness. Here are all of you, what you would call your multidimensional selves. Now, this multidimensional self, well, it has an awareness that it probably has a thumb. There's another part of you because it's a little bit more aware. All these awarenesses, all these existences of you, all these energies of you, this multidimensional self of you, they're all living, you could say, individual expressions, individual lives. But some of these lives, some of these energies realize that they're all connected to the whole, to the essence of you. You, as the human, as the little thumb, you're not really sure if there is more to you. But even that knowing that is in there, that you're all feeling in this moment, is connected to this whole essence that animates every multidimensional self that you exist within. That's the source of you here. And what the beauty is of that is that this source that is you and your wholeness, that is connected, you see, it's connected, it's not separate, it's connected to all that is. So the energy of creation is connected to your essence, and your essence is living these dimensional expressions, lives, existences to experience. And the more you allow you, that energy feeds back into your wholeness, and that wholeness transmits it to creation. And expansion occurs. The more you deny you, close off your true sense of self, just exist in pain because you're not allowing your being to come forward, well, no one feels anything of that. That's just you in your human form, because that's not what creation feels. It doesn't feel denial, it only feels allowing. That's compassion. It allows you, creation feels the wholeness of you, and the more you feel your wholeness, the more creation feels you, the more creation then sends you energy reflecting energy, what you require.
So with that, ZAR, then in that the palm of the hand, it's a great analogy, isn't it, for for how to kind of see and make sense of all of us. So that palm of the hand, that's wholeness, because that's our essence. So as you say that too, it makes me realize the more that we accept our wholeness and live as that, and our wholeness is that we are always complete. There's nothing missing from an energetic perspective. That is also then the gateway to us accessing the other aspects of ourselves. That's the common language that we share, even though we may be in completely different forms. Because all aspects of us are always whole.
Yes, that's the fascinating thing, young Mary.
Interesting.
And so we have shared with some previously the energy of the great symbol. And the great symbol, well, you will see it upon your earth in many of the ancient cultures where it looks like, well, if you can imagine the letter C, and there's an opening, shall we say, on a clock face between 4 and 5, there's an opening. Now, sometimes within your earth, the opening seems to be in a different spot, but there's always an opening. There's always this circle, this curious little circle, and there's an opening. And that is what we have described as the energy of the great symbol. Because the opening is where you, as creation's reflection, come into the center and can ask, you see, this is it here, really. You enter and you come into the symbol, and then you can ask your energies, your deities, your gods, whatever you perceive is, your dimensional selves, conversations, questions about yourself. You see, you're standing in creation's field as sameness, as you, being you, connecting to, in your essence, all of yous that exist.
So the great symbol, and I'll get ZAR to explain when it first came into being in a moment, but the way to think about the great symbol is it's an energetic portal for communication. It allows us, when we step into it through the process, to feel more of who we are. And also, which is really so beautiful, we meet all of us and we meet the other energies that may not be us, but they are on our path to support us. So it's really an access point for communication and connection. So ZAR, do you want to just share where the great symbol came from and that first campfire story? Because there will be people that aren't familiar with that.
So this may blow some of your heads right off your shoulders, although some of you were also there. So just hang on to your ears, okay? That'll keep it on top. So you see, creation, and as you are aware of it, all that is as you describe it, well, that's a perfect description. And creation creates. And as it allows its creation to create its environment itself, because it is created with purpose, it's there to expand life. And as life expands via allowing, that expands the universe and energy and everything that creation created. That's that space of compassion in action, in movement. Sometimes life can become a little stuck. And when life becomes stuck, if it hasn't been completely depleted, creation will look and say, needs a little booster shot, you see.
So you mean collective life, Zar, not just us in our individual lives,
Oh,
but
yes.
humanity.
Yes, we're not that specific.
No. So as a group, we get stuck.
Yes, we can't give you an individual shot, otherwise you'll explode. There's other things we do for that. But you see, yes, as a total, as a whole, as a planet, we're dealing with planets now, not just one person. And what was required 75,000 of your years ago was that little booster shot. It needed a change in the physical brain of humans for them to become aware that consciousness was possible.
So it was like an upgrade.
Yes, yes.
So many people would have heard these kind of stories or this information, and sometimes it's talked about as it's a star seed, this coming from the stars, and all there are different interpretations of it. When Zar talks about when this happened 75,000 years ago, it came directly from source. It was a direct intervention, if you like, into humanity, because as they've spoken about, if they hadn't, then humanity was on a path where we would have just self-destructed, because we didn't have that greater awareness of connection and community and creativity. We were just very much in survival mode as humans.
Yes, that's why you today have that knowing that you're more. If that didn't happen all that time ago in human years, then, yeah, well, you wouldn't really be here now. No.
And so at that time then, what role did the great symbol play back then?
Well, you see, that's a beautiful question. The great symbol was the amplifier. And so here's what occurred. So the alteration occurred within the physical environment. But what was needed was guidance. And so the first shamans, the light shamans, the campfirans, as we originally called them, but you understand them as shamans, they came forward to tell the story, to guide the human upon their path. The first shamans, the light shamans, they were guided by creation. The first 5,000, they were guided by creation's energy and told the stories, told what to do, where to go, how to nurture, how to begin to grow this very scattered group of humanity. And what happened is, and what you've seen in your history, is beings began to do art, begin to create. Life began so much stronger after that time. And you perceive thousands of years as such a long time, but it's not. Evolution, it's a process. It's not a click of the fingers, as many of you think. You see, you must allow that space and that time.
And what I think is so fascinating, everyone, and Shefali, is that Zar spoke about the great symbol, first of all, a few years ago, and then they didn't talk about it again. And it's only really in the last, I don't know, maybe 12 to 18 months that it's really come back, because it's the time for us to plug back into that original frequency and the amplification for us to remember even more clearly who we are and to step into a different knowing. Because what Zara's spoken about, and in the when we get to the offer, people will hear about this, the workshops that they've shared with us about this multidimensional self, they're talking about that we're now at a time for another upgrade for humanity. And that's why the great symbol has come back into our awareness as that portal and as that amplifier for us to be able to step into more and more easily and more naturally remember
Mm.
So it's in some ways it's a speeding up of us. It's helping us to remember and connect more quickly and easily than you know, if we were just sitting and meditating and doing it in other ways.
Yes.
I love that. And, I think, because of everything that's gone on in the past few years, we are now, I think, at that point where we're wanting to move forward, right? We're wanting to make a change, because, for a few years we were kind of stuck, right? We couldn't go anywhere, do anything, like we were stuck. So now it's like the energy is starting to build again about, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to create? What do we want to experience moving forward now, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a big push happening in,
Yes.
internally for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be curious, anyone who's people that are here live, pop into the chat if you're feeling it. There's definitely a ramping up of energy happening where we know it's as though that the disconnect or the friction between what we know and feel and what we're experiencing, either for ourselves or what we're seeing around us, is becoming heightened. And it's becoming heightened to the point where it's you know, if we don't address it, if we don't find a way to relieve that pressure in ourselves and collectively, it's not going to look good. You know, it's going to get very messy. And so that's why for all of us, as we resolve this tension in ourselves by expanding into accepting more that we are and tapping into more that we are for the guidance of living in this very accelerated time, we create an energy field that allows other people to be able to tap into it as well. So we, in the same way that those first light shamans, and you know, I'm sure most of the people listening to this will resonate with that feeling of, you know, you've always played a role in helping others to see and feel things differently, whatever, and it may not even be in the spiritual realm, but you know you've been here to guide. And this is what we're doing again, all of us. Now is the time for us to step even more clearly into our light and to shine even brighter in all of our day-to-days, so that we can create that ripple and shift the energetic field so more people can tap into it and feel the change and make the change for themselves.
And I think it's a push for ourselves, but at the same time, it's like the universe is pulling us as we are feeling like we're being pushed, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think it does, because I think, you know, as Zaz talked about, the time for now is for this change to happen. So I think we're getting nudged or maybe cattle prodded, tasered along the way to not just sit back and think, oh, well, we'll wait and see what happens.
No,
Yeah.
it is not a waiting. So from your October is when the beginning will begin. So there is, shall we say, a meeting that will be occurring. And these light shamans, some of them will return and come together. And that will begin the beginning, this energy of this adjustment. Because you as humans, you are in this curious moment of 50-50, shall we say. And in this curious moment, it is that space of where, yes, we can expand the planet, or we can crash the planet. The planet will be fine. It's humans that won't be. And you see, because there is this uncomfortableness within many, there's a possibility here of a new adjustment that will allow a consciousness to expand so that humans can expand their relationships with each other and with the world around them. It's not technology. It's you with the other that is the difficulty. And as you adjust the energy field of the human, so for the longest time, an awareness that you as humans, being in a physical form, when you are energies, as many of you are, when you are energies, you come into such a physical form as human. The physical form is so real that every time something happens, you feel it. And then that distorts your thinking of what's possible for you in your, shall we say, healing. And within the energy of healing, when you begin to realize how much energy and light you actually are, then that gives you a different perspective on the you and the way you heal you is possible. Because this light, this magnetic frequency, this energy that you transmit, it's always resonating. So for humans that become so stuck in their physical that they cannot get beyond it, you see, that's when they deny themselves relationships and their earth. And the work that you are doing, young, we know you as other names, but we'll say S for short, young S, the work that you're doing, that amplification of energy, you're attempting to get the message out. Okay, it's not all this and this. You're a more, this, nothing. You see. Wow. Now, when you begin to understand you're more energy and light than you are physical, that offers you opportunity. Please hear this word. That is why the energy of the great symbol, the generator, really, as we describe it, has such possibility and potential for you. Because when you enter the great symbol, and you stand within the center of the generator field and then communicate as energy, as source light to your dimensional selves and source, possibilities come forward. When you, yes, there, see these funny little things. They're light sources. These light sources generate healing, wholeness within you. They're generated, they activate your light. And then your light, you see, these things transmit a frequency into your physical body. And that light, that frequency, then turns your physical body on so it can, as you would call it, heal. Now, it's not a drug. It's not something you inject. It's not something that you swallow. It's something you stick on, and light sends a frequency into your body to heal you. Hello? Can you wake up to this awareness that you are light and frequency? And that is how you heal your body to become whole. Now, when you're whole, as your energy generates, then more energy you can hear and sense and feel. And then more energy you can accept as you then the life changes the reality and the environment around you. We're cramming a lot into a small amount of time here. But we wish you to understand the importance of you and your knowing, because your knowing is an energy. Your physical body is alive because of energy and frequency and light. Because when that leaves, there's nothing there. So the more you know this, the more you can work with it. And the more you work with it, the more your environment changes and the more you shows up.
Someone's saying in the chat, it's why light and sound heal us.
Yes, yes.
Because they shift our frequency and our vibration back into alignment with that whole reflection. Because remember I said before, we are always whole because our energy is always whole. The physical has constriction. So as we use light and sound and other means, frequency, to bring us back our physical to match our energetic, then healing happens, then opening to source happens. And what Zara was pointing to Gaz's wrist, so these little light therapy patches. And these patches that we use in our work now with Zara, they both work to naturally heal the body. They bring more light into the body for it to heal. And they also open us more clearly to source energy. So we use them in our meditations. And they help to open us to a clearer connection to the information that flows. So when you combine these with the great symbol, we're really, in some ways, amping up the frequency that's available to us and the frequency that we are, so that we can begin to use it to create change in our physical bodies, but also in our lives.
You see, some of you are energy healers. And some of you, you see, you use your hands and you place your hands upon the person. And you channel that energy and you begin to move them around, which is beautiful. These little things support, well, these little things are your hands, really. So you don't have to walk around like this all day, generating energy into your head or your pineal or wherever you want to put it in your heart. You don't have to do it. You just put this on, and then the light does the work with the light in you. Now, regardless, you see, what does it all mean? This is the incredible piece that you are, young ones. That you can put a little Band-Aid on and your body starts to heal. Not take a pill, not take medicine, not do all these things. You can still do that, that's fine. But you see, these little things begin to change something within your being. And what they can change is your thinking about you. And what it does, it changes your thinking about you that, oh, I'm not as broken as I thought I am, because I put a little window on, and then the little window has healed my foot, or healed this, or healed that. It starts to rejuvenate your body. What's rejuvenating your body? Light. Now, if light is rejuvenating me, what does that mean I am? Oh, creation's reflection, light, in the physical. Ooh, now what? Oh, well, now I will go sit on the cloud with an angel, because we can now talk equally and have fun. It generates a different energy of self. And then creation goes, oh, S has woken up. Good. Send some stuff down. Send the stuff back from the returns desk. She's here now. Great. Let's send. You've been awake for a while, but you know what we mean.
I think it's that, we always talk about in our work with Zara about the bridge of collaboration. And the bridge of collaboration is that recognition that we're both an energy being and a physical being. And a lot of spiritual work denies the physical being and says we just work on the energy and the physical's the problem, and we just need to, deny. Let's just focus on the energy. And people that aren't into the energy and spiritual and woo-woo stuff, they ignore the energetic and just focus on the physical. Well, all of our work is about collaboration between the two, that both of them are required for us to fulfill our purpose of being creation's reflection in the physical. And one of the beautiful things about these little patches is, because they're completely natural and our body is regenerating and rejuvenating, what we do is we address whatever's happening in the physical to allow us to more clearly feel our energy. Because as we were, we've all had the experience where we've had an injury or even just a headache, or, something's gone on and we're not feeling great. It's that much harder to then keep remembering and connecting back into our light. We know that we're who we are as whole. We know that there's more to us than just this condition that we're experiencing, but it makes it harder for us to remember. If we can align the physical and get those roadblocks in a way out of the way, then living as our light and as all that we are becomes that much easier. And someone's popped into the chat, and I think she's on They Are the Right Patches that she's thinking of. She says, I watched my partner after a stroke and he had problems swallowing and speaking, and after a few days using the patch, he could speak and swallow. And that's the magic of these. You know, some people, it's a slower process, but for many of us, when you give your body the light frequency that it needs, it rejuvenates really quickly.
Yes.
And that allows all sorts of other opportunities and processes to open up to us.
Yes.
And information to open up to us.
I
You
love
are
that.
not-
And you know, what you just said was so important, that when we are emotionally, physically, mentally not at our peak, we can't really connect. We can't really remember. Our focus is not on that. And, you know, it's understandable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, isn't it fascinating that the human body, you see, there you are, this little energy, as we shared before. And this little energy, which is connected to light and source and all that is, when you begin to recognize that sense of you coming into this physical form, which is so clunky, isn't it? It's hard to move around. You can't float and fly and do all the things you used to do. You have all these thoughts, you have all these memories, you have all these things. It's very difficult being in physical form. There's not the freedom. Yet within you, each one of you is yearning for this freedom that you wish to experience. Now, if you made the decision to come into form, there's a purpose. And the form and the experience is to manifest. Imagine how much you will expand when you're not in form, when you decide, whilst in form, that I will express my wholeness and freedom within this form. So rather than being it a constriction, you're learning how to use the form to experience energy and light and life. Now that's a game changer. And so the physicality now doesn't become a burden that you have to endure until you croak. No, it becomes a game. What can I do? How can I sense life with this thing that I'm in? How can I experience life? Okay, I've got this condition. What do I do? Oh, well, I can do this and I can do this with my mind and with my energy and with my thinking. I can create different environments because energy reflects energy. So if there's a dis-ease in the physical body that's manufactured something you don't want, there's an environmental expression there. The whole environment you exist within, internal, external, they're all part of the environment. You begin to change. Why? Because your creation's light in a physical form. Let's use it. You're not broken. Your soul, your essence, your energy, they're totally fine too. All they want to do is support you when you allow you that support. And
I think that's key, that if when you are willing to allow the support to come in, and I love what you said about we are creation's light experiencing in the physical form or something like that, right? And it's like, that
Yes.
is so true. We are light. We are creation's light being expressed
Yes.
in the physical form here. But we forget that
Yes.
because of the density of the physical form, of the
Yes.
you know, stories, drama, trauma that's going on in our lives. We forget who we are. And and that, I think that separation is, for myself, is the biggest form of suffering that there is.
Yes, yes, it is, isn't it? Yes, oh goodness. That's why we'll never be human. No.
That's right. You've chosen well, Zar.
Yes, yes, we have. Well, we can't be anyway. But anyway, yes, yes, you're right. And yet, the biggest awareness that will make the greatest changes in the environment, which is the whole of you, the universe and everything that surrounds it, will be you accepting that you are that light in form, and that that light reflects out through the form into the environment to make the changes that you wish to have happen. You see, as you become more centered and contented within yourself, the environment has to reflect that energy. If you're all discombobulated in there, then the environment reflects that. Remember, it's just energy reflecting energy. It's just, you see, you can blame, but really, there you are. Now what? And the more you realize your power to generate, which is the beauty of the little windows, is because from that space of stuckness, you take all the physical forms of healing, which can be very useful. You see, it's not throwing babies and bathwaters away. We never understood that, and young Mary shared why. You just had a baby and then you throw it away because it's dirty in the bath. We never understood it, but now we do. You're funny, you lot. Anyway, when you realize that your body is not completely broken, that you can regenerate it with light and sound and frequency, then that gives you a whole different knowing of self. Well, I'm not who I have been taught I am, because those people taught you from their broken sense of self.
And I think there has to be a particular knowing of self for us to, as you were saying before, Shefali, to accept support, to accept the resources, you know, whether it's a supplement, whether it's a light pack, whether it's a meditation that we do, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, to know that we're whole, and that from that place of wholeness, we can allow ourselves to choose things at different times, not to become reliant on them, but to say, this is a booster that's going to help me for the moment. This is the tool that's going to be useful for now. We have to know we're whole to do that. If we go, no, I have to do it all myself.
No.
I can't use tools. I can't use crystals. I can't use energy healing. But no, I can heal myself. Well, yes, ultimately we will be able to do that. But there's a doubt of self that we're proving to ourselves that we can do it on our own. And that's a very slippery slope, because if we feel we have to prove to ourselves that we can be all that we want to be, we can resolve the physical issues, the emotional issues, the material issues just from us, and then those things don't pan out the way we want, what does that do to our knowing of self? It just feeds the story of not good enough, not able to, not worthy, I'm getting it wrong again this, you know, whatever, you know, we all have our versions of that. So from wholeness, we allow ourselves to bring more wholeness in to support us, whatever that might be, whatever resonates for each of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then part of that is the receiving, being willing to receive, right? Being willing to receive that. And I think sometimes when we don't, it's a worthiness issue. Like, you know, like you just said, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough, blah, 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 which is not true at all, right? Which is not true at all. So, and I just realized too, when I was talking, that when I was saying about suffering, it's like, oh my goodness, that's a belief system.
Yes.
That is just a belief system. That's not true. It's like, you know, I can change my perspective on that, my point of view on that. It's like, oh my goodness. So thank you for that.
That's right. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's just energy in motion. If there's something that you're not liking, then begin to change this. It might take time. It might take persistence. It might take a whole re-energizing of your physical in order to shift it. But what else are you going to do? Stay in the suffering or change the environment, and you're part of the environment. It's like walking into your forest and you go, oh, look at the lovely trees. And then you smell, oh, and there's a garbage dump there. Okie dokie. So you can do one of two things. You can go and find a different forest where there is no dump, or you can clean up all the mess and begin to rejuvenate that forest. You see, the forest will always exist. Well, as long as you aren't ripping it down. But when your humans are disappeared, then it'll come back again. But you see, if you want to enjoy it, you have to rejuvenate it. You are the same as the forest. If you keep dumping on you, then it gets smelly. Now, you have to rejuvenate you so that you are breathing in the beauty of that environment. It's energy reflecting energy. It's what is.
Yeah, that's another awareness. Energy reflecting energy. I love it. Thank you. So I forgot to mention at the beginning, my goodness, I was so like excited about this conversation, but if anybody has a question for ZAR, for Mary and Gary, you can raise your hand or you can type your question in the chat. We'll take a few questions if somebody has questions about what we've been talking about, or just even like how to navigate life. Sometimes that's the big thing, right? How do we navigate life, right? So we'll do that in just a second, but if you want to go ahead and raise your hand or type your question in the chat. In the meantime, is it okay if we talk about the packages right now?
Yeah.
Just for, hold on, oh my goodness, let me share my screen 1 second. All right, so Mary and Gary and ZAR have for us a special package A and package B. So Mary, I'm going to let you describe or explain the package a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the first package is a series of workshops that we did with ZAR at the end of last year and early this year that are all exactly what we've been talking about, how we can learn about the great symbol and begin to work with that portal frequency or that generator frequency, as ZAR has described it, for us to access not just this thumb of us, but the all that we are, for guidance. But also there's just, I know when I've stepped into the great symbol and been met by the other me's, and I don't necessarily see them, some people see them very clearly as different beings. For me, they're just energies that I can feel. And it's such a, it's like coming home. It's this beautiful welcome of return where suddenly that absolute visceral sensory knowing that I'm not on my own, that I'm not in this experience on my own, that I am actually part of something even larger that is creating reality, not just my reality, but all reality with me, is really tangible. So you learn how to work and collaborate with the great symbol. So that you can connect in to those beliefs that are going to allow you to live. There's audios, there's meditations, and so this was a two-part. So each part has two workshops, and I think they're about an hour, maybe even an hour and a half each one. So we really dive deep into the processes in those. And there is Q&A from the recordings as we did them live. And so again, you'll get people, it's almost as though you're doing them live yourself. And the frequency conversation that I spoke about at the start is embedded in the workshop. So yes, you'll be hearing, but you'll also be on that frequency journey with ZAR. So you are able then to step beyond what you think is possible. The third part of the offer is some of our foundational tools that we always share with people, because when you want to manifest, the key for manifesting life is coming from a place of who you are. And we've created the aligned manifestation method for us, where you manifest from a place of wholeness and of a knowing that you are already whole and you are everything that you want. And so we give you the processes for that in this on-demand workshop. So it's a really powerful foundational piece. And in that, we talk about a lot of the key concepts that we share with ZAR. And then the self-love and the true self is another little video course. Self-love, which we've kind of talked about worthiness a couple of times today. Self-love and our worthiness is the absolute generator for us to create change. Because if we don't love ourselves enough to continue with what we decide, let alone choose what we decide is going to allow us to flourish, then it's where you'll see people where they go, oh, I'll try that, and they don't stick with it. Well, there's not enough self-love in the mix for them. So the self-love course is a short mini course to help us recognize how to tap into our self-love. And we have a really beautiful process called the practice of beauty, which is part of that, which is a daily practice that builds the energy field of self-love so that it becomes your default. It's not something you have to keep working on. When we talk about self-love, we're not talking about spa days. We're talking about that deep, unwavering love and support we have for ourselves first. So it's a really beautiful foundational piece. And then these are the energy alignment tools that I use all the time. I've got them energetically in my back pocket, the secret heart, saffron heart smile, how to listen to people from heart listening, which helps us transform judgment and criticism, which is a really powerful way to shift the energy in a dynamic. And how we can infuse the field around us to create more connection rather than separation. So these are just great little energy tools to begin to just use day to day, because all of our work is about how do we embody all of this into our daily living. Meditation is not something that happens when we sit on the mat. Meditation is how we live our lives. And in fact, ZAR's never been a great fan of meditation when it's done to escape or to try to access something we think we're not. And this is a little short meditation to help us feel that light that we are, to feel the true self in a guided meditation, which just is about reminding, not finding something that we're not, but just that space to remind. So that's all in the package A, which is all self-directed learning, immediate access, and you can keep going back, taking the learnings deeper and deeper each time.
Awesome. And then package B is everything in package A plus a one-to-one session with ZAR.
Yes. And the one-on-one sessions are really fabulous. You get the an audio and video recording of that. And it's a chance where you can ask ZAR very specifically what you need to do to take this next step in your life. What is it? You know, you might be thinking, well, I know I'm shifting and changing, but there's something that feels like it's getting in the way, or this is a particular situation and dynamic that I feel really stuck in. How do I bring a different awareness and a different energy into that situation? And that's where the one-on-one session is fabulous. So what we would recommend for people that buy the package B is that you would book your session once you've watched the videos, because you'll have so much more, you know, you'll ask different questions after going through the self-paced workshops than you will at the start. So to get the most out of the session, to wait. But if there was something urgent and you wanted to book it immediately, that would be fine as well.
Awesome. And that's package B. And of course, there's some wonderful testimonials and feedback from people who have worked with Mary and Gary and ZAR. So please check those out on the page. And there's a fuller bio as well. So again, the two packages, there are payment plans available for both. And if you are an Inner Circle member, please use your gift code as well. And so with the sessions with ZAR, they can be anytime. I mean, like, yes, it's helpful if they have gone through the package A part first, but if not, like, it's not like a 6-month waiting period or anything like that, right?
No, the calendar, as soon as people buy, they'll get access to the calendar to be able to book a time. Yep.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And yeah, wonderful tools. And you know, sometimes, you know, we all have a lot of tools, but sometimes we need to get sometimes a different perspective, right? On what we've been using. Because sometimes it does feel like, well, these tools are not working anymore. Well, you're not the same person you were when you first started using those tools, and maybe you've outgrown the tools as well. That's possible too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's another frequency piece to come in for that next stage, that next phase of our journey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tina has a question. Tina, you want to unmute?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I have had a lot of tools, but I think, like you just said, Laura, I've been shifting and changing so much that I need new ones.
Yeah, perhaps.
And just maybe some guidance on how to, I don't know. I don't even know how to ask. The person I'm helping and staying with is on not very positive. And I mean, I usually can shift it, but I don't know. Any advice on when you're around people that every time you say something nice and cheerful, they seem to tell you how shit piles right there. Pardon my language, but
Mm, mm.
We understand, young one, that it is humans are pesky little things, aren't they? Oh. Mm. They're pesky when they don't see the beauty that you are.
Right.
Now, here's a curious thing. And we're going to be a little bit challenging, potentially.
Yay.
Sounds like you're up for it. Perfect.
No, okay. We shared with us that little funny thing, energy reflects energy. Excuse us. We know you can take it. So here's the thing. When the light that you know you are gets challenged, where do you go? Do you believe and accept what others tell you you are? Or do you think to yourself, well, actually, excuse us, do you know to yourself, what do they know? You see, really? Or maybe they're talking to somebody behind me because I'm extraordinary. Look, I tell you what, I look good in the mirror. You see, it's that energy. And that's not being arrogant. That's you knowing, standing in your strength. There's an energy that we call the realm of saffron. In the energy of saffron, saffron is compassion and strength. The two go together. Compassion for yourself and the time that it takes you to know you are creation's light in the physical, and the strength that is required of you to go through that process of being that knowing. You
I
see,
think I'm
people
so
will
close to
challenge
that.
you when you challenge yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm so close to that. That's why that challenge keeps coming up, to just show like you are exactly where you are that.
Yes.
And that's
You,
why I usually just go, okay, and just smile and
Yeah,
keep moving on.
yeah, whatever.
yeah, thank you for putting that light there.
Yeah. But instead of
And
going, what is it in me that's doing something wrong, that's reflecting back to me and blaming myself? Because
yes,
that I did for so long, because that's sort of how we were taught to do that, to look within
Yes.
yourself, what you're causing, like you're reflecting, like you just said. So then I would take, okay, what is that in me that I'm reflecting this and making this come back? But that's better, it's exactly what's happening. Instead, I'm going, okay, not me.
And many times humans will criticize and judge what they don't understand and can't accept.
Yes, and I know that. That's why I say, we're just not quite on. I said, you can be and thinking however you want. We feel and think differently, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect, yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tina.
And I love those patches.
Yeah, they're fabulous, aren't they? We do too.
I was amazing. I actually used them when I was going through the grief when my partner died. I used I can't think of which kind it was, but I really think that got me through that first few months of grief so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you got you through this, you see. You
I
accepted the
did, but it
light
helped.
that's being reflected into your physical body, and the physical body is then reflecting that knowing into your own healing.
Okay.
And then you became one with the light that you are. That's what they do. They awaken you to the possibility of your wholeness. Energy reflects energy, light reflects light. Yes, you went through grief, and you also allowed yourself the strength you needed during the time of compassion that was required, you see. Beautiful awareness.
Yes, and you know what? You just made me realize, and I was going to say, is when my partner, he was not into the woo-woo stuff. He wasn't any of that. But we did all this, and I put patches on him. I did it, and I want to say, in a way, he went from the dark to such bright light before he crossed over. That was, I'm getting full body chills. Now he's with me all the time. Like it's a beautiful thing how just those little things can help you shift.
Yes.
Absolutely. They're so
Yeah.
powerful. And, it's what I love about when we talk about them in this space is DZAR brings a whole other interpretation and understanding of them that is not what the kind of the official, the way the company talks about them. They come because they're backed by so much amazing science of what they do physiologically, of the peptides that they activate, of how they calm the nervous system, of how they help the body to regenerate, and stem cells and activation, all sorts of stuff. And all of that's really clinically proven.
Right.
And that's what happens. And at the same time, what they don't talk about, what the DZAR brings to it, is this understanding of that they amplify our light, because they're allowing more of our light in through the process of our light activating them. So they're a perfect center of the bridge tool for us to bring into our experiencing and knowing, aren't they?
Yeah. Full body chills. I would tell you more, but it's, not the time now, but yeah, it was beautiful how he, that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's
Thanks.
great. Thank you, Tina. Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. It doesn't look like, I don't see anybody else with questions for you. So, is there anything else that any last words of wisdom for us, ZAR? Because it's like part of me, as Tina was speaking and as we were talking throughout this whole conversation, it was also like, if light reflects light, and when, I'll just say when the shit has hit the fan, as an example, when everything is going wrong, and if light reflects light, what does that mean for the person individually or collectively? Because, there's been so much stuff happening lately. So does that mean that our light is like, contaminated, polluted, etc.? What's going on?
So you'll have to improve your aim and keep it away from the fan. But anyway,
Yes.
But when that has happened, if there are no coincidences, then why has that hit the fan? You see, there's a reflection of the human environment right in that moment. When humans become so disconnected from their light, from their self, from their source, then it goes everywhere. Then that expression of energy that you're existing in lives in doubt. Now, creation doesn't see doubt. It is only when you begin to realize, well, we've made this mess. Now what? I have to clean it up and turn the fan off and stop playing with funny things. You see, you have to change the environment that you live within. Otherwise, it keeps messing up your walls. And it is the energy. Someone threw it, you see. Somebody did the action of throwing it. Now, that's a reflection of the environment. There's anger, there's fear, there's whatever it is. And it's a beautiful awareness that you have shared. And this energy reflects energy. That is the frustration that humans live within. And instead of it being in one little space, it then scatters across a whole environment. And then you see it everywhere you look. And it seems as though that is what is. But at the end of the day, you realize, well, I can leave it there and live within this stench, or I can clean my environment up. I clean my environment up and create a whole new space for me to exist within. I'm going to repaint the walls, get rid of the fan, do all these sorts of things. It's you doing you. And the only way you do that is with love, strength, and compassion.
And I think in those situations too, it's, sometimes we think that it affects our light, but our light is always, our essence is always whole. It's always shining brightly. It's our connection and remembering to it that makes it feel dim.
Yeah.
And so when we recognize it hasn't been tainted, no matter what's been thrown at it, we can separate out the experience and the physical, what's going on, and that essence of who we are, and then we get to choose. Where do we put our attention and our focus? And if we keep focusing on cleaning up the mess, then of course, you know, energy reflects energy. We will keep creating more mess to clean up. But if we go, well, there's mess there. Yep, some of it I take responsibility for and I'll deal with that. But the rest of it, I'm just going to keep coming back to my light, coming back to my wholeness, and sharing and making that the ripple. Throw that at the fan rather than the other.
Yes. Throw confetti.
Yeah, confetti at the fan.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. And that's great, because it is about coming back to our own light, remembering our own light, instead of just what's happening on the external. Do some of that work. Absolutely. We all have to, but the main focus should still be on us and our light, and shining that light, and just being that light.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
It is your purpose. It is why you're here.
It's why we light shamans, all of us. You know, because we're here to share the light and to help people remember that they are the light as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely one of the 5,000 from back in the day. Yeah, light shamans, but I resisted it for so long, you know, and even the term shaman, I resisted it. But then I was like, it happened, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I was resisting this for so long. It's like, then it was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. But it's just about us again. That was that remembering who I am, you know, and the essence of who I am, instead of who I thought I was.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it's been a journey. It's been an interesting journey in this lifetime. Yeah.
So,
thank you. This has been great. Zara, your energy has been so lovely and playful and light, right? Which I just absolutely love. But at the beginning, when you first started speaking, I did feel a shift in my energy. Like I started to feel a little bit tired, but not really tired. It's just there was a shift in my energy and my frequency, because you know, I want to remind everyone, this was not just a conversation that we're having, right? So during this whole conversation, again, there was energies, frequencies, light being transmitted throughout this whole conversation. It's not just words, empty words.
Perfect. Yes.
And what's so magical is, you know, if people watch the replay or they watch this back again, you hear a whole other level, because our energy foundation has shifted in this conversation. So we hear it differently. The number of times when we do our workshops and people email me and they go, sure, did you edit that bit in? I don't remember DZAR ever saying that, because we can only hear what we're a match for. And so as our energy shifts and we listen back, now I hear it. Now that was there all the time, but I wasn't a match for hearing and understanding it, or it's a deeper level of understanding that comes in.
And even during this whole conversation, that I know that there was a bit that I kind of missed. I mean, I was listening, but I didn't quite catch it, you know. So there was still something there that was there for me that I not quite get, you know. But so you know, that's why it's important to go back and watch and listen again, so that you can get more pieces of what you may have missed, or just new pieces that, you know, you were totally unaware of the first time. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for the technology.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And I just love reconnecting with you both and your energy, you know, because I still remember the personal session I had with ZAR way back in 2015, 16. And I still remember how special I felt during the personal session. So thank you. Yeah, I still remember that. So thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful.
This has been great. And thank you everybody for being here with us today. Thank you for your questions and your comments in the chat and your feedback. It's been awesome. Again, if you'd like to take advantage of the packages from Mary and Gary and ZAR, please do check those out, package A and B. And of course, if you're an Inner Circle member, please use your gift code. I will have the recordings out in a little while, so please do go back and watch and listen again, and receive again more of the frequencies, more of the energies, more of the transmission, to help you to remember who you are. This is what this is all about, to assist you in remembering who you are. So this would, hi Gary, welcome back.
G'day there.
Back for the passageway.
Back from the passageway. No, it's a good snooze.
Yeah, good for you. Wonderful. So thank you so much, Mary and Gary, and I know Zara's
Thank
gone
you,
now, but
Barbie.
you know, thank you. This was
Thank you,
brilliant. I
Thanks,
loved
Dom.
it.
All right, lots of love.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next week. So I'll see you then. So until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all so much love and blessings. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.